or in regular times.
Finance Minister Bill Morneau joins me from Toronto. Hello, Minister. Very nice to see you. Thanks for being there. I know you're a busy man.
Well, thanks for having me on your show today. And yes, we've got a few things to do.
I want to start off with these unemployment figures. I know that we were expecting it, as the Prime Minister said today in his news conference. We're not expecting it to be happy news, but it is 7.8% in March, 13% unemployment in April. May is coming up, or we are in May. You would know from the weather today, but what are you expecting in May?
I think what I can tell you for sure, Joyce, is that we're in extremely challenging times, and this is a continuing challenge. That's absolutely the reason we've been so focused on thinking about how we can support people. We know that an enormous number of Canadians are going through stress that we really could not have imagined, and that's why we've put in place programs that, frankly, we couldn't have imagined before. But the challenge is going to continue, that's certain. But,
okay, so you saw 13% unemployment today. I imagine that you were not surprised. So therefore, you've got to have some idea. You have access to some of the most brilliant minds in Canada as to what to expect now that we are in the 6th or 7th week of isolation. We kind of, have been sailing through this. What are you expecting in May? Is it 7.8, 13%? Are you expecting 16%? Where do you see this going?
I think we can reasonably expect that the unemployment challenge is going to continue for the near term. The numbers that we saw were very, very difficult, of course, but we've also seen a very large number of Canadians, more than 7 million Canadians, sign up for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, which means they are not at work. So those numbers are challenging. They're likely to continue that way. That said, we are seeing that there are some protocols being developed, and there's some provinces that are looking towards ways that they can get sectors of the economies back to work. So the challenge will continue, the support will continue, which I think is really important. And now we need to work together to maintain our focus on our protecting our society, and think about how we can do that in a way that's coordinated across the country to get us thinking about the next steps.
Oh, okay, so you mentioned the 7.5 million people who are on CERB. There's obviously 1.1 million people who stopped looking for a job, understandably. If you look at the sort of overall workforce of Canada, it seems that the unemployment realistically is even higher than 13%. Do you see that?
Well, I think you're doing the math that, of course, makes sense. We have, roughly 19 million workers. What I think we can't really capture, though, is the number of businesses that have done exactly what we asked them to do, and that is to close down and to put their workers in a position where they're accepting the CERB, or they're going on to the wage subsidy. We're seeing an increased number of firms apply for that, which is what we were hoping for. So, yes, the numbers make it look like those number of people that might be unemployed could be greater, but again, I think in many cases it's temporary. It's businesses scaling back temporarily, and of course, as we move to what we hope is a new normal with different protections, we should find ourselves in a position where many of those people are able to get back to work in a productive capacity. So I think, Joyce, it's just not possible for us to do more than to say we've seen the numbers for April, we know the challenge continues, and we know that what we're doing is the right thing for right now, which is protecting ourselves and providing the support as we go through that time.
No, we're not disputing. I mean, these programs are obviously lifesavers, so that was not the point. But the Prime Minister today said you are extending the wage subsidy. We don't know about CERB. That will be probably for another announcement. So how long do you see this wage subsidy being? It is absolutely necessary. How long do you see it being absolutely necessary? June, July 2021? Where do you see this going?
Well, that's the work that we're doing right now. What the Prime Minister signaled this morning is we do recognize that we need to make sure that we can get our economy back up and running at an appropriate pace. And that means that we're going to need to think about how these programs can be adjusted and changed so that we actually recognize a new pattern, which we hope will be quite a different pattern in the coming months. So we are right now doing the work to think about how any extension of these programs can be considered. And of course, we need to think about the interrelationship between the wage subsidy and the emergency response benefit and our employment insurance system so that Canadians can have the confidence that they have the protection and that we have the ability to get back to work in a way that is appropriate given what will be the emerging situation. So there's more work to be done, Joyce. If I had an answer, I would give it to you. And the Prime Minister and I spent some time on this this week. We'll be spending much more time on it in the coming days because we know this is an issue that we need to get back to businesses and Canadians on so they can have confidence.
And so, in all this, we talk to businesses, small, medium, large businesses, some telling us, you know what, I'm not going to be able to come back. This is not viable for me, not because the help wasn't sufficient, but because COVID-19. It is going to kill businesses. It is inevitable. Do you have an idea so far, on the number of businesses that won't make it back?
I don't, and I don't think anyone can have a realistic idea of that. What we need to do, though, is to provide for, for businesses to have more confidence. So our approach has been to make sure that the credit that businesses need will be there to get them through this and bridge to the future. We've announced for the smallest of business that $40,000 emergency business account. We've announced for the next size of businesses the up to $12.5 million of debt that they can take on, and we are working on capacity for credit for larger enterprises as well. So what we know right now is that businesses will need additional credit to get through this, and I know in that there will certainly be businesses, some of which might have been in trouble before COVID-19, but others that are just facing enormous challenges as a result of this that won't be able to make it through, and that's very unfortunate. But our goal is to try and provide the support so as many as possible can get through. And of course, what's our goal? To support people, to support jobs, so that as we come out of this, we'll have a strong economy to get back to work.
Which is something obviously everybody wishes for. The Prime Minister today mentioned the R word, recession. Are we in a recession?
I don't think it's any surprise that the Prime Minister mentioned recession. I think we all recognize that the depth of the economic challenge is significant, that it's quite straightforward that we are in a recessionary time. Our challenge really is not so much about definitions, not so much about that, but much more about thinking how do we support people and support businesses so we can get out of this in a way that means that we can face up to the next set of challenges, which will be real. There will be continuing challenges as a result of COVID-19 that we'll need to face up to. Our approach is to make sure that we support people and businesses aggressively enough that we will be able to have a strong economy coming out. That'll make us better able to face up to those challenges. So yes, very challenging times, and we hope Canada will come out better than other countries because of the scale and the speed of the investments we've made to support people.
Yes, and I know that the outgoing Governor of the Bank of Canada was very optimistic, saying, maybe in a year from now, we'll be back to where we should be. There's a lot of optimism out there, but the PBO, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, said that this deficit would be $250 billion, maybe $300 billion. Understandably, again, I don't want to go back to, reanalyzing all the programs that are obviously necessary, probably be good for us when we return to have had all these programs that other countries don't, but you're going to have to pay this money back. How about increasing taxes? Is that something that you're considering? It's certainly something that you must be talking about with all those great minds that you exchange ideas with.
Well, let me actually say, Joyce, that's actually not one of the things we're thinking about right now. We are very much thinking about the supports that we put in place. The nature of our economy afterwards is going to be about how many businesses are able to get back up to doing the work that they were doing before COVID-19 and how many people are going to be supported through that. So I am not in a position at this stage to really give a clear-eyed assessment of what the financial situation will be after this. I think we need to make sure that we preserve our capacity to have a strong economy, and then we will be able to face up to those challenges more successfully.
And then, yes, challenges is an understatement, Minister. There are many of them ahead for you and you know, probably for every single Canadian out there. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us. This was enlightening. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Keep safe, and we'll hope to talk to you soon.